Hi, I'm Jim Blair with Night Owl Monitoring. Today I want to show you how to install and program Power Monitor Unit number 1. And this is the unit here. It actually comes with these 3 amp clamps. Now, the unit can be DIN rail mounted, or you've got a single screw hole here at the back at the top. It might be a little loose in your box if you use that. There is not room at the bottom for a second screw. DIN rail is the way to go if you've got the material. Now, these amp clamps are pretty cool. You can just clip them open and slip them around your wire. You don't have to take the wire loose to install them. I like that. And they're rated at 50 amps. So if you've got a pump that's pulling more than 50 amps, you cannot use Power Monitor Unit number 1. You've got to step up to Unit number 2. The Power Monitor Unit number 1 can also handle multiple voltages. Single phase 110, single phase 230, or 3-phase 208 or 230. But it cannot go above 400 volts. So if you have 460 volt or 575, then you've got to step up to Power Monitor Unit number 2. Let's get this thing on the wall and show you how we install it. Okay, to install this power monitoring unit, we're going to put it on this 3 horsepower submersible pump control box. Now it's going to tell us the amperage and the voltage of each leg, but it's also going to give us the daily run times and start counts for this pump. To install this on a DIN rail, all you got to do is pull this little tab down, hang the top, and push the bottom in like that. Now it's securely mounted to the wall. Now you notice that I am just putting this on this wall. I am not putting it in a junction box for this video so that you can clearly see the wiring. However, when you install it at your site, I expect this to be mounted in some sort of a box. Either a separate junction box, or if you can make it fit, you can put it in your motor control box. Okay, now we're going to install our amp clamps. Now you can monitor the incoming power or the outgoing power on this box. I'm going to do it on the incoming power, the 2 hots coming in. I'm going to monitor the amperage and the voltage, line 1 and line 2. You could, if you choose, you could monitor the outgoing, these 3 wires going out to the pump. It's obviously not going to be even amperage on each one of these because you've got start capacitors, run capacitors, things like that. But if that's the way you want to do it, you're certainly welcome to do that. It certainly gives you a different set of information. So all we're going to do with our amp clamps here, we're going to open it up. On the bottom here, it's got a little arrow, and that's the direction of electrical flow. So our power is coming in this direction. So we're going to install it that way so that that arrow is pointing in the direction of the electrical flow. Get that clipped on there good. And here's my second CT. Arrow's pointing that direction. So that's the direction that's flowing. Get that on there. Now we're going to pull these wires into our conduit. Yes, when you put it in, you're going to put it in conduit to protect these small, fragile wires. And then here in a little bit, we will hook this up to the power monitoring unit. Now it's time to wire up our SPI wires to monitor the power on each leg over to our power monitoring unit. So we're going to run our wires through our conduit here. Now we've got a red, and I'm going to put that on line 2 because that's where that's the color of the power supply wire coming into the control box here. Keeping the colors the same. That way if we have a problem down the road, we can know which leg it is that's giving us problems if we keep up with this. I got that hooked up, and then I got a ground here. I don't have a green wire in this bundle, so I'm using this yellow. So here, I got a yellow on the ground, and I've got a red on line 2 and a black on line 1. So on the other end, we've got the same colors here, and we're going to hook them into our power monitor unit. Now, terminal number 1, the bottom left here, is line 1 in. So this is not power supply for the unit. This is simply monitoring that voltage. So red would go in line 2. If we had 3-phase power coming in, of course, we would have another wire, and we would run that into the 3rd leg. The 4th leg is for that ground. Now we've got our SPI wires, power monitoring, line 1, line 2, and ground into our power monitoring unit. The next thing we need to do is hook up the power supply for this unit. Now this is the actual power that the power monitoring unit is going to use, and it uses 110. We've got 110 volt power right here. I'm going to unplug that. Now it's really important to have a separate power source. If you have power coming from your pump controller, Anytime the power gets turned off to that pump controller, you're going to lose power to the power monitoring unit, and therefore it's not going to be able to communicate anything to the night owl system. If you have a separate power source, then when the power gets cut off to that pump, this unit can actually send a notice to the night owl system telling it that it has low power. So here's our power source coming in. We've got black wire here, that's our hot. It's going to go into number 5. And the white wire is going to go as our ground, it's going to go into number 6. Now we've got power to that unit. We'll plug it in to power here in a few minutes when we get ready to program it. Okay, now it's time to hook up our CT wires into our power monitoring unit. Line 1, the black wire, is hooked up to this yellow and black wire. So we'll get the yellow and black, and it goes up here in the top into 37 and 38. Now one of the things that's surprising to me is that the orientation doesn't matter. The black or yellow wire, doesn't matter which one you put into which. The red and black wire, this is line 2 monitoring. That's going to go into 35 and 36. Now if I had 3-phase power, monitoring 3-phase legs, I would put that third leg on 33 and 34. So that's our CTs. We'll kind of pull that out of the way over here so it doesn't get in the way of our viewing. Okay, now it's time to hook up our communication wires between the power monitor unit and the night owl system. On one end of our cable, we have this M12 right angle adapter, and we have the blue wire connected to pin number 2 and the yellow wire connected to pin number 4. In a few minutes, we'll hook that up to our Modbus connection block, and that will talk to the night owl system. The other 2 wires, the yellow goes into 43 and the blue goes into 44. And that's all we need to wire up the communication wires. And that's the end of wiring up power monitor unit number 1. So I want to show you how to wire the communication wires if you have multiple power monitor units. You might have 2 booster pumps and a big submersible pump. So this is power monitor unit number 1, of course, and this is a power monitor unit number 2. All of the CTs, the SPI wires, the power wires, all that wires up exactly the same. But the communication wires, the RS485, that is run in a daisy chain fashion. So you have a blue wire going to a blue wire, going to a blue wire, and then that ends in your Modbus connection block. So I want to get in and program the power monitor unit. I got rid of those other power monitor units so we can just focus on this one. And I want to point out there's 4 buttons here. I'm going to call that the UI button, up, down, and the E button. There are 3 parameters that we need to make sure that they're set up properly. To get into the unit, first of all, we want to push this E button and just hold it for 3 seconds, and it's going to come up with a passcode. Now, I don't suggest that you put a passcode in it, but if you're worried about somebody getting into it and changing parameters, you could set a passcode right here. But I'm going to skip the passcode and I'm just going to push the E button and hold it. Now one of my goals here is to do this kind of slow, and you can take your phone out to the job site and you can listen to me as I do this as you walk through and set each of the parameters on your power monitor units. The first section that comes up is the communication, and we need to go in and make sure that we have the right Modbus address. So to do that, we push the E button again and hold it, and it's going to come up with address 10. Now, what this is this is a way that the night owl unit can communicate with multiple units. Each different sensor actually has a different Modbus address, and we've reserved 10 through 19 for the power monitor units. So your first unit you want to set up with Modbus address of 10. Your second one would be 11, 12, 13, all the way up to 19. If you have more than 10 units, let us know, and we'll let you know what address to use for the other power monitor units. So if you want to change the Modbus address, push the E button and hold it for 3 seconds, and they'll start blinking. Then you can use the E button, just tap it once to go to different digits. I've pushed it twice. That gets me over to the single digit. And then you can push the up button to go to 11. Up one more gets you to 12. I'm actually going to go back down to 10 because that's where I want it. And I'm going to push the E button and hold it. And it's going to say good on the front. Now you have set the Modbus address for your power monitor unit. Once you've done that, you need to step out one step. So push the UI button. That goes back to the communication section. Now push the down button once, and it's going to say SYS. That's System Configuration. And this is where we're going to go in and we're going to set the settings for the CT, the current transformers. If you are using the 50 amp CTs that came with the unit, you do not need to mess with this unit, this section. You can skip it. But if you have a 5 amp version, or if you just want to go in and make sure that it's set up right, this is how you do it. Push the E button for 3 seconds, and it'll say CT parameters. Push the E button for 3 seconds, and it'll say CT1 050. So that's what you're set at. If you're going to use the 5 amp version, you push the down button once, and it'll say CT5. Then you push the E button for 3 seconds. It'll go to blinking. Push the E button again for 3 seconds, and it'll say good. Now I'm actually going to switch it back. I'm going to push the up button, E button for 3 seconds. It's blinking. E button 3 seconds. I got to be set back to 50. Now I'm going to push the UI button once. That goes back to CT parameters. And once again, they push the UI, and it goes back to system configuration. Once you've got your CT set, you need to go back into system configuration to tell it what type of power supply you're going to use. So push the E button for 3 seconds, and it's going to go back to CT parameters. Now push the down button 3 times, and it should say type 2P3. Now look at this chart. You're going to see that you have different setups for different types of power supply. I have a single phase 230 volt. So I'm going to use the 2P3, and that's what it's already set at, but I want to show you how to change it. Push the E button and hold it for 3 seconds, and it's going to start blinking. You can use your up and down arrows to scroll through the different options, and once you got it set where you want it, push the E button and hold for 3 seconds, and it's going to say good. And you're now done programming. You can push the UI button if you want, and it'll take you back to the main page. Once you've gotten all your parameters set, you can run your pump and make sure you're getting good data here. You can use the UI button to scroll through. So like right here, I'm showing line 1 to line 2 voltage, 246 volts. So you can check all your amperages and voltages right there, power configuration. Make sure you put your covers back on if you didn't lose them. And that is how you program power monitor unit number 1. Thank you for watching this video on how to install power monitor unit number 1. If you've got any questions, reach out to us. We'd love to help you out.